ready?
Okay, go on,
I'm waiting for the time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the Lamar City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, April 18, 2023 to order. We'll begin with a roll call.
Goodchild?
Yes.
Donovan?
Yes.
Wick?
Yes.
Sturgeon?
Yes.
Bruns?
Yes. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? So moved.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to our first hearing. On the April 4, 2023 meeting, the council set this date and time to hear public comment regarding vacating a 25-foot wide utility easement on the property recently sold to Pet Parlor LLC. A legal description of the property is attached. The easement was part of the Lamar's Industrial Park South Addition platting with the redesign of the area and the future platting of the Lamar's South View Addition. The easement will not be needed. I'd like to open the hearing and ask for any written or oral objections or comments. Anybody here for the easement hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing and turn to the council. Administration recommends that the council approve this vacate.
Go ahead and say vacation.
Vacation of the easement.
Last month, or last meeting, I brought up that there is no way we are doing this prematurely, and that we're not gonna come back in a year and want it back. I was reassured we are not. So with that, I'm convinced from city administration that we're not doing this prematurely. Motion to adopt resolution number 2322 to vacate 20-foot wide utility and drainage easement parcel A in the Lamar's Industrial Park South Addition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Donovan?
Yes.
Sturgeon?
Yes.
Bruns?
Yes.
Wick?
Yes.
Goodchild?
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Moving on to the citizens' time. We have some citizens here to comment. You're each allowed 10 minutes. Comment. Please come up and introduce yourself and. We know that girl. Yeah.
From the other side, right? Delana Erke, 613 3rd Avenue Southeast. And I know you have some tennis players here to talk. I am here as a non-tennis player because why? But I do think that it's important to keep the courts that we have and to keep them in good order. I've been up where you all are. And every time that this comes up for discussion on resurfacing, the same conversations come up. Do we really need the tennis courts? I think it's important that we keep the tennis courts and keep them in good repair. I think it's important that we have courts on both sides of town because kids, 11, 12, 13 years old, their parents may let them ride their bike a few blocks to go to the tennis court. They may not let them ride all the way from the south side of town to the golf course to use the courts there. And I know the argument is always, well, there's never anybody playing. There may not be people playing tournaments. There are people playing. The other day it was still too cold for some of the regular tennis players to be outside. I saw a dad out there hitting with his son. They had ridden their bikes. The bikes were propped up against the fence and they were batting the ball back and forth. You see at random times, during the summer on nice days, a group of 4, 5, 6 teenagers out there. Some of them have rackets, some of them are playing on their phones. They might have flip-flops on, not ideal for tennis courts, but they're outside, they have a couple of rackets, maybe old rackets from the basement, and they're out there, they're moving around. And when I was on council, we had the big community betterment program push, Vision Iowa. The biggest, one of the biggest things that we emphasized during that time was quality of life. The tennis courts, along with golf, along with the rec trail, which was added through the hundreds of thousands of dollars we got from that Vision Iowa program. We added another 9 holes of golf. These were all to emphasize quality of life. Mike Donlin was administrator at the hospital then. I remember trying to help recruit doctors. And when they would come, you don't really show them your wastewater plant. You don't show them your fancy new water towers. You show them what do you have for them and their family to enjoy the community of Lamar's. And that goes to quality of life. So, you know, really, when the courts need to be resurfaced, it's a significant outlay of cash. When I was on council, we got it done. Unfortunately, I think part of our problem is coming because it was done by Knife River, which is a road construction company, not a tennis resurfacing company. That might be part of the problem with it. But we did get it done. We had to pull it over a 2-year budget period. We budgeted 1 year, budgeted the next year, combined the funds, got it done. You know, how having it done that way compares to having an actual company who does tennis court surfaces for our climate on outdoor courts, I don't know what the cost involved is, but it is a significant outlay. So is the outdoor and the indoor swimming pool. Not everybody can utilize those. Whether they choose not to, aren't able to, or aren't able to afford it. Tennis is free. Anybody can go out there at any time. The golf course, that takes money to keep up the golf course. 27 holes. Not everybody can use it. Whether they choose not to, they can't afford it. It's there. It's there for people to use. It contributes to quality of life. The pit, we put a bunch of money into dredging the pit. We benefited from it. We have more camping spaces. And it's a clean area, and if you go out there during the summer, you see a lot of people out there using that for free because either it's closer for them, they might be camping, or they can't afford to use the pool. So this gives them an alternative, something that is at no cost. The skate park, we moved that from the swimming pool parking lot over to O'Toole Park. That wasn't cheap. People use it, not everybody. I don't want to break something, but it's there for people to use. We have to keep it up. The playgrounds, they're there for everybody, they're free. Whether you choose to use them or not, it doesn't matter, but we are responsible for keeping up the equipment, and we have them scattered throughout the town. We don't just have one playground where everybody has to go. So that's basically it. It's just to remind everybody of Lamar's is about quality of life. We aren't a big city. We don't have some of the amenities that big cities have. But what we do have is we have a good quality of life, and I think it's important that we keep it up. Thank you.
Hey, hold on 1 second.
Yes.
When did we resurface it?
I want to guess around 2010. Okay, I was close. I was going to say 10, so it's 9.
No, that's what I'm
Okay,
gonna tell
so
them.
Patty's got that information for you, but I do know that it was funded over a 2-year period, and it was sometime between 2008 and 2016.
Okay.
Thank you, Delana.
Yep, you bet, thank you.
I will remind you, you do have 10 minutes, but you don't have to use it all.
Okay. I'm
In
sure
other
you-
words, I'm trying to get out of here.
I'm sure you guys have already done your research and on this, but this is just something I dug up. So Westmar tennis courts are historical courts. They've been there longer than I know. So the courts were resurfaced approximately 10 years ago. They resurfaced, painted, stretched the existing fencing, added 4 new gates, replaced the bang boards at each end, which were prepped and painted by volunteers. So we had volunteers that helped work on these tennis courts. Let's see, where am I at now? Okay, you have to remember there are 3 courts, but also an additional of approximately 1/3 of a court that has bang boards. So you have more than just the 3 courts, which you don't see other towns' courts have. They have the best lighting with timer. They also added electrical outlets that allow for ball machines to be used for practice. Very accessible from the newly remodeled city building, the YMCA, which promotes and offers tennis, a huge advantage for parents and kids. My point is, it's been approximately 10 years since any major construction has been completed on the courts. We live in cold winters, warm summers, everything outside always needs repaired. But now it is time for repairs. Nothing lasts forever. I understand request to budget maintenance is required, but in a 10-year stretch, I would hope that it's the period of time to be budgeted, to be considered. You guys probably researched that too, because we were on the park board at the time they were done, so I'm sure Jason knows exactly the year on it, but I guessed.
I did, but no, I
Thank
didn't. Just so everybody knows, I mean, she stated it was done 10 years ago.
Okay.
When we did resurface the ones out in Municipal Park, some of them last year, their warranty on them is only for 6. Okay, just so you know.
It's 6 years?
Yep.
Dave just said it's been 10.
It's been 10. I came in 2010, and 2 years later, they redid the courts.
I think it's not.
He's talking about municipal.
Okay.
Yep.
So basically, the structures and everything are there, it's just the tennis court itself is the big need.
You introduce yourself.
Yes, Scott Erkey, 613 3rd Avenue Southwest. I think my wife, Delani, did a great job of talking about,
He has to say that.
yeah, I have to say that. Right? But quality of life, she went over there very carefully with me. That's sort of about, I mean, I'm like in the same vein she is. A lot of things are wonderful we have in our community. Most people don't play golf. Most people aren't gonna be in the bike trail. Most people won't be utilizing the pool. But they're all wonderful to have. And I support every one of them. They're awesome to have. Tennis to me is the same. I'm not going to repeat what my wife said about quality of life, but I will tell you about tennis courts. The best tennis courts by far are at Westmar. They're the only ones that have been built by years and years ago by true professional people that build the courts. That's why we all like playing at Westmar. It's superior to the high school. It's superior to the one out by the golf course because it's built better. Plus, we all prefer that because of weather. It's very windy here. It's in a really nice environment where it controls the climate somewhat. As you know, it's very, very windy, and as tennis players, you know, they play a lot. Wind is our enemy. So it's in a beautiful setting. And to me, it needs to be done when they resurface it. We've never had it done by true professionals. It's always done poorly or on the cheap, rather than hire true professionals that know how to resurface tennis courts. I think the ones out by the park were actually done by Lamar's Tennis Association many years ago, correct?
Correct.
So they really have never been, you know, first class the way they are. So for me, personally, I think we need to maintain all those facilities that we have and keep them and do it well. And typically, most tennis courts, if it's done professionally, are redone like every 5 years. That's kind of how it's done in that type of culture in certain cities that are really involved. Obviously, this is not a tennis mecca, but I sure hope we keep them. For me, it's a very special place. So I know for a couple of us, we really enjoy it. So hopefully you find it something that we keep in our community and keep up. So We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, I can attest, my daughter played the tennis meet there on Thursday, but the Westmar courts did not withhold the wind there. But it was 40 miles.
I promise they were less windy than the high school.
So ugly.
I'm Tiffany Wright. I am a tennis coach at Lamar's Community. So I come here to offer a different perspective of beyond just the use of them as the community. I'm referencing a article written in the Sentinel about a discussion that was had here at a council meeting that mentioned that they don't think the courts were rarely used and have essentially become private courts for a few people. So I kind of want to address that, even though Mr. Goodchild said he's going to get flack for this. I'm not here to provide flack. I'm just here.
That's okay.
I'm just here to offer my perspective, just to give you a little understanding of how we use them. From the 1st of March until June, so for 3 solid months, they are used 6 days a week. They are used for practices every day. The boys and girls will alternate where we practice. So this week I'm at the high school courts. The boys will split between the Westmar courts and the YMCA courts. All 12 courts that are in the community now get used 6 days a week, minimum, for these months during tennis season. When we have meets here, we use all 3 sites as well. What will happen is varsity will play at the high school, our JV will play at the Westmar courts, and if we have extra players, we call them exhibition, they'll get moved to the golf course. Westmar courts are hugely vital to that process because of proximity to the high school courts. We have some places that only have 1 coach, so they're trying to get back and forth between the high school and the Westmar courts to coach their players. So sending them out to the golf course isn't accessible to them to be able to coach all of their athletes. Our district gets chosen every year for hosting individual and team district tennis meets. And that is because of the amount of courts that we have here. The team meet, what will happen with that is 4 teams will come to town, 2 will play at the high school versus each other, the other 2 will be split between the Westmar and the golf course courts. If we lost the Westmar courts, we could not host team districts because we wouldn't have a place to site 2 additional teams. In the afternoon, the winners of both of those duels play each other later on at the high school. When we host individual districts, 12 teams come here. 12 teams of, they bring their entire teams, we host that, and that's for boys and girls side, so that would be 4 different dates, 4 different events. As far as use for the courts beyond school, I know that there's a couple of friend groups in the high school that during the summer are there 5 to 7 nights a week. They don't necessarily play tennis, they play spike ball, they play nitro ball. And the reason is, which I'll talk to a little bit more, is, as Scott mentioned, the environment there. Summers are hard here during the day, but Westmar does provide shade early, it provides wind protection, and I know you said it was windy the other day. It was like tornado gust winds at the high school, and the golf course is even worse. So it offers different, besides tennis, the courts are used for multiple things. I know that my kids personally go there during the summer with their friend groups because it gets cooler there at night, and they do all those activities. So that's another 20 to 30 people that use those almost daily in the summer. A comment was made that we have the golf course so people could just go there instead. A couple of points to that is that's like saying we have 1 park in town, everyone can just go to that 1 park. It's an accessibility issues. I know for me, most of the tennis girls that are now coming out for tennis are not what you would be your stereotypical tennis player. They have accessibility issues. They're often walking to practices and to meets. And so asking them to go to the golf course is quite a challenge, and dealing with that kind of thing. Also, there was one other thing, sorry. I guess a couple of things. Like I said, the demographics for tennis are changing. It is appealing to a lot more people than what you would normally think of in the 80s and 90s as a tennis player. Also, it's a lifetime sport, always will be. You're seeing an increase in pickleball. Tennis is the same thing. there was a downturn of tennis in popularity for a few years. It's definitely on the uptick, which Lance will talk about. We are increasing and our numbers are going up. I just don't see, I guess personally, I'm just not sure what the rush is to tear them out. They definitely at some point in the future need resurfaced. Right now, besides the golf course that just got resurfaced, they're absolutely hands down the best courts we have. And I think they're good for us to play on another 2-3 years before anything would have to be done, possibly longer. The cracks aren't really opening up. I just think that I don't understand necessarily the rush as to why we're in a hurry to get them out right now, when we are using them as much as we are. Anyway, if you ever have any questions or want to know how we use them or how much we love them or any of that, sure, let me know.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Rob.
2 questions.
Yes.
How many young ladies are out for tennis this year? I know because my daughter is involved.
Yes. I had 32 come out this year.
I think that's just.
Boys had 22. We have pretty high numbers. It fluctuates here and there and will end up lower or higher after the start of the season. But yeah, I had 12 more tennis players than the basketball team had basketball players. So just
Jason, I believe, talked to the superintendent. Did the superintendent visit with tennis coaches to find out?
He didn't. The only thing I heard from him was letting me know that they'd been decided to be torn out at the end of the season, and that was a couple of months
He had
ago.
no discussion with you at all?
That is incorrect.
Okay,
That
that's
is
just the only
incorrect.
email I got a couple of months
Unless
ago.
I'm out of the loop, that is incorrect. It was
Okay.
brought up as a, what should we do?
Okay, yeah, and that's
It was
fine.
one of
I'm
the
just saying.
Suggestions, but there's been absolutely zero decision made. That I've said
Good.
with all the.
That makes me happy. That's why I'm here. I just want to make sure you
And I was gonna ask you
understand.
about your comment on resurfacing, because I walk them. I'm not a tennis player, and I'm
Yep.
not gonna start being one. But I looked at the cracks, and I don't even really see what I call ball alteration cracks.
No, there's none yet.
So I'm kind of curious as to this whole need.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think there's gonna be a need, definitely not within the next couple of years. The high school courts have opened up a lot. Like, I just want it on your radar to maybe start budgeting for it so that we can get them resurfaced when there is a need. I don't see the need personally yet, and I'm using them every day. And as Patty, I think was the one who mentioned it, they have those boards